Great day. Hey, what I wanted to go over today was the NAR Settlement, the National Association of Realtors Settlement, and how that would affect you as a Colorado home buyer when you buy your first home or a second home, or what if you want to list a home. We're going to go over all that. The first thing we need to go over is how it's traditionally done so that you can know what the differences were, just in case there's some of you out there who haven't sold a home before. What would happen is a seller would usually interview 1 to 3 agents and pick a real estate agent out that would then list the home. Usually what that looked like is that the listing agent would say, okay, I will, and I'm going to make it very simple here, I will list your home for 5%, and maybe the other two were listing at 6%, so the seller went with the one that was had a little bit more of a discount to the commission. So they'd go, okay, I'm going to list this for 5%, which if it was a $500,000 home would be $25,000. But I'm not going to keep all 5%. What I'm going to do is I'm going to work for 2%, which is 10 grand, and I'm going to give the other 3% away to a co-oping agent. We're going to put this home in the MLS, multi-list service, and another agent is going to see that. And if this house fits their client's needs, they're going to come in and show this house. And if the people write up a contract and eventually close, then I'm going to get the $10,000 and they're going to get $15,000 for bringing the buyer. So that's traditionally how it's been done. The problem was it kind of glossed over, and a lot of sellers were made to think that, oh, I have to give them 5-6% in order to sell my house, and they didn't really understand it. So now that has to be a lot more transparent in that they're going to be saying, listen, I'm going to do your house for 2%. Okay, so under the new agreement, they're going to, how it works, it can work where hardly anything changes, is they're going to say, well, I'm going to sell your home for 2%. However, do you want to give another 3% to the buyer's agent if they want to bring in another buyer? Okay, so now this is the seller side. Okay, so what that looks like then is the seller might say, yeah. Now what everybody thinks is going to happen is that they'll say, well, Mr. Listing Agent, I'll give you 2, but I'm not going to give the other guy 3. You see what I mean? Now they're more into what everybody gets. They could say, I'm not going to give anything. I'm going to give you 2. And if you can't sell my home, then too bad, because I'm paying you to sell my home, not you and somebody else. They could say, oh, I like it how it was more traditionally done, but I'm not going to give them 3% and give you 2. But what if I give them 1% or 2% and you 2? Okay, so that's going to become a negotiation. Okay, so that's how the seller side is going to do it. So what's going to happen is you're going to have some listings out there that the seller's not going to pay any commission to a buyer's agent. Okay, because you have listing agent and you have a buyer's agent. The buyer's agent is going to be an agreement that you, the home buyer, sign to get represented, the fiduciary responsibility to you, the buyer, where on the listing side, the fiduciary responsibility is to the seller. So now I'm switching gears here, we're going to the buyer. What happens with the buyer is that for you, the consumer, however you want to put it, is you're going to sign a buyer's agreement which says, hey, you better represent me in all these transactions. Okay, so here's what's going to happen though, is that some of the sellers are going to be like, hey, I'm not going to pay a buyer anything. Some are going to be like, I'll pay him 1%, or I'll pay him 2%, and there'll be some pay 3%, but you get the idea. On the buy side, the agreement you're going to sign is going to say, okay, I'm going to get X amount, you're going to get X amount of dollars, whatever the seller and or listing agent does. Whatever the listing agent wants to offer you, whether it's 1%, 2%, or 3%, that's what you'll get on that house for representing me. However, the buyer's agreement, and this is where you got to be cautious of, what if that seller's not giving anything to a buyer's agent? The buyer's agent agreement is then going to say that you need to pay him the 1% or 2% or 3%. Generally, it'll be a flat fee and it'll be like 5%. So it'll be like, hey, if you can get it from the seller, that's great. However, if you can't get it from the seller and I still want to buy that house, then I have to pay you out of my pocket. Okay, so that's kind of the gist of what's going on, is that everything's going to be pretty much quite the same. The only thing that's really going to happen is that the real estate agents are probably going to make a little bit less money because now they have to negotiate a lot more because of the new settlement. However, as far as you're concerned, I imagine most of the houses, and we really won't know until this goes into effect in July, but we really won't know until we know how this will go. But the best guess is that you will only be affected if, in fact, you pick out a house that was shown to you by an agent that they're not offering to cooperate. And in that case, you would need to supply the money. But I would imagine most sellers are going to offer, either 1 or 2% to the buyer's agent too. So at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to affect most home buyers, when they're looking for a home. Other than that, these sellers, what it will affect is the seller saying, well, wait a minute, I'm not going to give you 2 and you him 3, I'll give you 1 and him 2, or give him 2 and 2. But you get the idea. The sellers are going to negotiate a lot more, which means their commissions will probably go down 1 or 2%. And that's about all that's going to happen to you. But I did want to go through, the way Americans buy and sell homes is about to get turned on its head. Again, what I'm showing you is I think there's a lot more hype than there needs to be, especially when it comes to, home buyers in Colorado. Goodbye 6% commissions. Okay, I would probably agree with that. It was never set in stone anyhow. It's always been negotiable. It wasn't transparent. It'd be like you finding out that the car guy gets 3% on a car, but you could go and get him down to 1% to get a better deal on the car. You never do that. Okay, I'm not saying that's how they do cars. I'm just saying that's how the real estate works. Because they have to disclose it a little bit different now, I think you'll find that their commissions are going to be a lot more negotiable. So I do agree with what goodbye 6% commissions. Buyers have to pay their own agents, maybe. Okay, only if the listing agent is not doing it, and you'll know that before you see the home. So you could just say, I don't want to see any homes where I have to pay anything. And I don't think you'll be missing out on a lot. New rules for the way they have to disclose their agreements now are going to be different. Buying a home could be cheaper, which goes with less commissions. Might get you a better deal on a home, although I don't think that's going to really play in it. So I would almost disagree with homes going to be cheaper. The seller's not going to say, well, I'm only going to give you 2% and 2% for the other agent, but I'm going to go ahead and discount the other 2% myself. The seller's still going to sell it for this. It's just that the seller will make more money. So that's not going to make the home cheaper. Brokers will probably quit. Yes and no. If they're making less money and they don't do a lot of transactions, they're probably going to get out of the business because it's not worth it to them. Because you have a lot of agents out there owning maybe 1 or 2 homes a year. And if they're only going to make half what they used to, then yeah, they might get out. So that's maybe a maybe. But you get the idea. We pretty much went over the gist of it. At the end of the day, I don't think it's going to really affect you in that, other than if you want to pay for your buyer's agent's your buyer agent's agreement in case the seller doesn't. I really hope this helps. Again, if you really like what I'm saying, please watch my next video and subscribe. That really means a lot to me if I can get more subscribers. And then also there'll be a link underneath to join my Facebook group where we go over all kinds of stuff. The idea we want to do on the Facebook group is save you a lot of money. So we're going to give you information. I'm going to give you information without obligation so that you can make great deals. And I'm going to start that off with, of course, you have to use me, but if you happen to use me for your lender, I will give you a free appraisal credit so that you'll save, $650 right away. Anyways, I hope you're having a good day, and thanks.